Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our Child Nutrition Program webinar. My name is Colleen Fillmore, and I am the Idaho State Department of Education Child Nutrition Director. Along with me today is the CMP State Agency staff. So please begin submitting your questions, and we will address those at the end of the webinar. As a reminder, please mark your calendars for the next two webinars that we have scheduled. One is August 20th. The next one is September 3rd, and they will be at the same time as this webinar, which is 8:45 to 9:45. Also, a couple of other reminders. All of the child nutrition information has moved from the governor's website over to the Department of Ed's website in the reopening section. So what you will find there is everything that is related to reopening, which of course is a very hot topic right now. The other thing is that all of these webinars are recorded and they are being put on the Department of Ed YouTube. So if you want to go and listen to it again, or maybe you have a fellow school district nearby that was unable to attend, you can let them know. So one topic I wanted to bring up that I've received some different emails and phone calls on is a program called PEBT. And EBT is a food stamp card that comes out of Department of Health and Welfare in their food stamp program. And the P stands for pandemic because of this time. And so we are really happy to announce that we are in partnership with the Department of Health and Welfare in getting this program going. We have seen a drastic increase in food insecurity, and we have identified those, especially through our summer food program, as a metric. And for that reason, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Sherry Ybarra, and our department in child nutrition has been working, as I said, with health and welfare, and since April, to try to ensure that Idaho families have access to this important progress. SDE has provided a list of eligible students to DHW for this project, and DHW will be submitting a plan to FNS for approval. Everything is looking really good, so both areas are very excited and hopeful that this will be approved very soon and we can move forward. So once that has been approved, DHW will be contacting the schools for needed information to move forward. And at that time, the school district can work directly with Health and Welfare for the next steps. Now, hopefully by the end of this week, the superintendents will receive an email from the Department of Ed that is actually coming from Health and Welfare on the submission of information. So one question that we have been asked is, can you give this information to Health and Welfare for this program? And the answer is yes. So SNAP, or also known as food stamps, is a sister USDA program. And so we, by that regulation alone, can share information with them. And in addition, the Families First Act provides additional permission for this information to be given to DHW for the PEBT program. So again, this is a very important program. Both Health and Welfare and the Idaho State Department of Ed see great value in this. We're working together, and you should hear more very soon. So thank you so much for helping us with this program to provide food to those in need, because we do know there is a really high increase in food insecurity. So with that, I'm going to briefly tell you about the agenda today. We have Dominique is going to be talking first about some summer food information, then Heather, and then Linda. And so at this time, Dominique, I'm going to hand the webinar over to you.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our webinar this morning. I'm just going to update you on a little bit of the summer food program reminders and remind sponsors that many of the summer food waiver flexibilities are effective until August 31st, 2020. And if your district is in the situation where they may be needing to push back the start date of the academic school year, you are able to extend your summer food program operations under the existing flexibilities until August 31st. If this is the case within your district, please go into My Idaho CNP and update the meal service end dates for each site that will extend summer food operations, as well as checking the accuracy of the average daily participation numbers for each site. If you are extending your summer operations into the end of August, you may have higher participation due to schools not opening as scheduled, and we want to make sure that you capture all of those participants with an accurate average daily participation number, and that you don't have any issues when submitting that claim for reimbursement. And that is all I have for summer updates, and I will pass it back to Colleen. Thank you.
Okay, Dominique, thank you so much. We really appreciate everyone's efforts during the summertime, and hard to believe we're in August and moving into the school time. So next we will have Heather that will talk about NSLP topics, some poll questions, and several other things. So Heather, we'll give the floor to you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good Thursday so far. And one of the topics we have to discuss in the realm of National School Lunch Program are new models that are popping up for providing remote education or distance learning, as you can see on the slide here. So distance learning has a variety of different models that are followed, and we want to talk about a couple distinctions, and that's important because of USDA's definition of how their flexibilities work and what they define to be a school building. So as you can see here, distance or remote learning. In this scenario, students are enrolled in their brick and mortar site, but that brick and mortar site has to start providing distance education. And so those children would be in their homes or at another location receiving education from their actual school building. And then the next scenario, in terms of definitions, would be a virtual school. So a virtual school is a separate school site where students may enroll for the semester, trimester, or the entire school year. And virtual schools have their own teachers and staff. Those enrolled in a virtual school are not concurrently enrolled in a brick and mortar site. So where are they enrolled in the student information system, and how is the district claiming ADA for those students and their attendance? So this is important as a distinction because when students are receiving meals in one of these scenarios, it is currently allowed per USDA guidance for distance learning students who are enrolled in a brick and mortar site to receive a school meal. But students who are enrolled in a virtual school site are not currently allowed to participate in school meal programs, and that is because USDA's definition of a school building is contingent, or of a school is contingent upon it being in a building. And so per USDA, a school means an educational unit of high school grade or under, recognized as part of the educational system in the state and operating under public or nonprofit private ownership in a single building or complex of buildings. And so per USDA's own definition, these virtual schools are not currently permitted to participate in USDA school meal programs. So with that being said, we welcome conversation on that. We recognize this as an ongoing and iterating situation. And I'm thinking we had a poll question on that. To be perfectly honest, we haven't ever tried to do a poll in the CNP webinar, so I'm not sure how that would operate. So if I could ask Jessica if she's on the line to guide us through that.
Yeah, so there's actually going to be a survey that will pop up as soon as the webinar ends.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's what I was looking at the panel going, I don't see it, and I knew you'd said survey, and that was, I just didn't realize it was after the webinar. So thank you for that clarification. After the webinar, you'll be asked, are you in a situation where your district is planning to operate a virtual school? And so then the next set of questions that will be included in that survey actually go to the next topic I will discuss, which is the town hall. So thank you everyone for participating last week. It was wonderful to see everyone's faces and have conversations and really just share what concerns and challenges people are going through. And then on a small degree, start problem solving and brainstorming, but really identifying what challenges everyone is anticipating as school gets back up and running is really helpful so that we can make sure that we're sharing those concerns up with USDA to advocate for greater flexibility. And if there's a district that's already a little bit ahead, they can share some of the solutions that they're planning to implement as school gets back up and running. So given the success of that conversation model, we would like to do it again. And part of the survey that you'll see after this webinar is asking your preferred day and time. So this is scheduled for next week. It's going to be based on the highest response rate, people who are able to participate, as well as state agency staff availability. So that town hall model, that town hall discussion from last week, it was recorded. It is in the process of being posted to our website. That just needs to go to our webmaster and get uploaded, and we will send out a broadcast email when that recording from last week is available. But thank you to our panelists for providing discussion points. Thank you for everybody who participated in the small group discussions. And thank you everyone for your active participation in that and the ongoing conversation. And that's all I had for the town hall. I will hand it over to Linda to talk about some health department updates.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, everybody. So some state agency staff were at several schools the last few days with our Central District Health representative, identifying some issues that schools should plan for prior to their opening. Central District Health now issues weekly guidance for schools, and that is the sheet that you're seeing on this page right now, and Ada County schools are in the red, so to speak. With that being said, this is guidance provided by Central District Health, and your health department may provide different guidance. So their number one concern at Central District Health, no, you can show the pictures now, is social distancing for both students and staff, and how they're going to be distributing the meals to the children. So social distancing, how are you going to keep the children 6 feet apart, and how are you going to protect your staff? So what are your plans for PPE or personal protective equipment for your staff? So you're going to have possibly face shields, masks for your staff, and the face shield that we show here, the Central District Health person looked at it, and it can be wiped down, but it couldn't go through the washer because underneath the blue is a spongy, it's a sponge, and it's what keeps the forehead from getting all sweaty. However, it can't go through a dishwasher or something to get clean. So he is recommending that the face shield stay with the person and you can use it more than once, but he did not clarify how often it should be replaced. So you need to come up with those type of scenarios. So do you have sneeze guards? And in this picture, the sneeze guards are low. However, this is for a high school. So how are you protecting your staff? And again, this is Central District Health is asking the staff to wear the face shields because they're dealing with high schoolers who are taller than the sneeze guards. So are you allowing students to serve themselves milk? Central District Health does not recommend this. Will you have student helpers in your kitchen, and do you plan on having PPE for them? The one big thing that I would recommend is the first thing you do is what is your plan for closure? And that could be, do you have a personal illness reporting policy and employee exclusion? And what happens when staff becomes ill or students working in the kitchen become ill? The other thing is, have you thought about high touch items? Microwaves. Our Central District Health recommends if They stay in the kitchen. They're cleaned after each use. So Central District Health recommends not having microwaves, and they talked about it with the administrators during these conversations. Water fountains. I know they're throughout the school, but if you have a water fountain in your kitchen, can you turn it off? Or is there only touchless water fountains? Pin pads. If you're going to use pin pads, how are you going to clean it after each child touches it? You have to think about seating configurations so the kids can't be bunched close together in the cafeteria anymore, and traffic flow to keep the children 6 feet apart or as far as possible. We've been in numerous schools where that isn't possible, so they want you to think about it before you bring the children into school. These are just some of the recommendations that the health district has. Your health department may have different recommendations for you, and I have heard some health departments recommend going to CDC for guidance. I would push them and say, I'm looking for some help from you. This is my plan. What do you think about it? And ask them to work with you, because you are part of a team also with the administration in the school. One thing I learned the last few days is if you talk to the administrator, they know that this is a pandemic and things need to change a little bit. And this year, even high school principals and vice principals are willing to work with food service to try to make things happen to keep kids socially distant. That is the upshoot from our health department visits, and I recommend you think about all of these things right now before you start school. And I wish you all the best. And I'll give it back to Colleen with that. Thank you.
Okay, Linda, thank you very much. And thank you for the entire team giving that important information. Really appreciate that some of the team went out and worked with the health department. So some really good suggestions there. So the one question that we have is, where is this document that, Linda, you were showing from the Central Health page? Do you happen to have the URL for that, or where they could find that?
I will look for it and send it out.
Okay. Okay, we will go ahead. We'll send that out broadcast email. So not only everyone getting it here on the call, but those that were unable to be at the webinar. Actually, we do not have any other questions right now. So, and someone is thanking Linda for the great information. It really is. And the pictures were very helpful too. It brings to light a lot of different things. So let me see, we do have a question here. When we hear about the waiver for distant learners when will we hear about the waiver for distant learners picking up meals? I have parents asking already. What is the status on that?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding the question correctly, the person asking is referring to the Q&A document that USDA is developing to address these different scenarios. So what we know at this point is that the guidance that came out with the nationwide waiver was assuming that the student populations in each school building did not change, and therefore meals could be provided to those students in those buildings even if they were receiving remote meals. And USDA did not anticipate that entirely new entities of a virtual school would be created to provide those services to students, which would end up shifting student populations. So we did, as a state agency, have a discussion with both our regional office and our national office to go through a variety of different scenarios that we've seen across the state of Idaho and to really share some of the specifics about the challenges and logistics that you all are facing and to really advocate for flexibility in this area. And that was over a month ago. So we are still waiting and continue to get the "it's coming soon" response. It's forthcoming. We don't have any deadline on when that will be available. We're hoping it will be available in a time frame that's actually useful to those of you in this situation. Thanks for the question.
This is Jessica.
Yeah,
I think what they're might be waiting for is approval on the opt-in waiver form that they had submitted. We are still allowing sponsors to fill out and complete the form until next Friday. And at that point, then we will go through the review process, and we should be sending out approvals shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Heather and Jessica, for that insight. We do know that the clock is ticking here, and so appreciate these questions. The entire team, as has been said, has really been in heavy discussion with USDA, both at the regional and national level. So thank you for that clarification. Next question, can we put lunch and breakfast in the same bag for children doing online schools? And so TJ, would you like to take that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And yes, there is the nationwide flexibility for mealtime, so you can serve multiple meals. But we do want to reiterate, that is one of the reasons that we were really clear in this particular webinar about the difference between online learners and virtual schools. So if you are talking about a student population that those students are strictly assigned to a brick and mortar site and they're simply participating in online learning to keep student populations lower, like maybe an A day, B day with an online scenario, then those students are eligible to receive meals. But where we're waiting for guidance is if these students are actually enrolled in a virtual school site. So long as you can identify them as online learners with a brick and mortar site associated with their enrollment, yes, you can serve those students multiple meals at one time. That's what the nationwide waiver allows for. So hopefully that clarifies.
Great, thank you so much, TJ. I do want to let our participants know that Linda did put in the URL link to the handout that was shown on the PowerPoint. So for those of you that are on this webinar, you can find it at that area. So next question, we have pushed our start date out. Do I need to change that in my NSLP application? So Heather, would you like to take that?
Yes, the short answer is yes. If you have operational changes, please go into My Idaho CMP and update your NSLP renewal packet to reflect those changes. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you, Heather. Next question, we start school on August 19th. Will I have the approval before that? I think that Jessica kind of gave, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I was just going to say our intent is to make sure that you have all of the approvals necessary to operate before you start school. Of course, as requests are coming in, the state agency is working as quickly as possible to get those approvals processed and out. So thank you for letting us know when your start date is. We will put in every effort to make sure you have those available on your start date.
Perfect, thank you, Heather. Next question, if homesick from school, can children still receive meals? And Linda, you want to take that?
Sure. If homesick, yes, you can. If they're distance learning, but you have to have a procedure in place on who can pick up the meals, and you have to keep your staff safe for it. So you have to come up with a procedure, but yes, you can serve children that are homesick.
Okay, good clarification. Okay, next question. Our district is 4 days this year, so I can only serve them meals on school days, right? So Linda, you want to take that?
Yes, so we're operating the NSLP meal pattern, and it can only be served on days that you are providing schools. So if it's a 4-day school week, you can only serve students on those 4 days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next question. If students are required to self-isolate, can the parents still pick up meals? So TJ, would you take that one, please?
Sure. And actually, this is a really good question, Heather, and it's something new. As far as the NSLP team, we have not discussed this because essentially that student, are they at home receiving instruction? Because it is on instruction days that students are allowed to receive a meal. So I'm going to confer with the rest of the team on this and see if anybody else has any input, because we're talking about a student who may not be sick, but because of the pandemic is basically just isolating. So are they receiving instruction would be my question. Anybody else on the team want to weigh in?
Yeah, this is Linda. If the student is required to self-isolate, my first question would be, would the parents be required to self-isolate as well because they're family members? So you have to have a plan in place to keep your staff safe. If they're doing online learning and have their online learning at home and are supposed to do it, I would say yes, you can give them a meal. However, have a plan in place, because I don't want parents who are supposed to be self-isolating driving over and possibly infecting your staff. Have a plan in place.
Yeah, great clarification. I didn't even go there. So thank you for that, Linda. And then I don't know if any of the rest of the NSLP team, but this is where those plans are so critical, so that you have consistency in the way you treat your meal service, so that one parent doesn't receive meals, another does, and then there's, potential for consideration that you're not serving my student when you should be.
All right, lots of things to think about. So thank you for that information. Next question, are the meals free to all students that normally pay, or is it just students who are normally eligible for free meals, etc.? So Heather, would you please take that one?
Yes, so per current USDA guidance related to the school meal programs, students receiving school meals are required to be claimed by their eligibility status.
Very good, thank you, Heather. And of course, as we have seen, things do change quickly, so we will keep everyone updated if things do change in that area. So next question, can you do curbside pickup on non-school days, no school on Monday, in school Tuesday through Friday? So who would like to take that one?
I'll take that one. So if it is a non-school day, you cannot distribute meals on a non-school day. But if I'm misinterpreting the question, so if you have students who are going Tuesday and Wednesday and you're giving them those Tuesday, Wednesday meals, I probably would need more information, so you can email me.
And to add additional clarification, this is TJ, the thing to remember is that the meals are served, because it's through NSLP, these have to be instructional days. That's when meal service is allowable, is a student has to be associated with an instructional day. So that's where this question becomes a little like, are they at home on a Monday receiving online instruction?
Yes, great. Thank you, both TJ and Linda, for that. So next comment or question gives us an example. It says, student in classroom tests positive, and then those in contact would be required to self-isolate. Could they still pick up meals? Get this more confusing the more we discuss. We appreciate that comment. So Linda, you want to take that one?
Yes. I'm going to see if I can make this very simple. Call your health department. They're the ones who are going to give you the guidance on how to come up with a plan to keep your staff safe. So if they've required an entire classroom to self-isolate, ask your health department what you should do in that instance to get the students' meals.
Okay, next question. Our district is open 4 days a week to students at brick and mortar, but 1 day a week on Wednesday online. Can we still serve them on the online day, which is Wednesday? So, Jessica, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Yes, you can still serve them that day. They are receiving instruction, and they're just going to be doing distance learning and are solely enrolled in their brick and mortar. So you're fine to serve students on that day and claim their meals.
Perfect. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, next question. I feel like I might be splitting hairs. Our superintendent has explained to me that our virtual school is not a separate school. No ID associated with the school, as students are still associated with their brick and mortar building. More and more families are enrolling in the virtual school. I am not clear if we can feed them due to the definition of virtual. So, Heather, do you want to take that? I felt like you had.
Yeah, I was going to volunteer. Yeah, so this is where these overlaps and these definitions become really unclear. And this would be an example of a scenario we provided to USDA to say we need guidance on this, because historically students participating in virtual only schools have not been eligible to participate in school meal programs, but clearly that whole model is being completely reimagined as people are trying to accommodate and put in safety precautions to protect those from COVID, who want to participate from COVID. And so what we ultimately came down to as a state agency, and I believe we had agreement from our regional office, if your district considers the virtual school, and I have air quotes around that you can't see, to be a program, if it is a program available to students in your district to participate in the same way that sometimes districts offer gifted and talented programming, where you have students from a variety of different school buildings. They're still enrolled in a school building, but they're participating in a program that may take place in another building. That historical context, those students have always been able to receive meals. They're claimed at the site where they're enrolled. So what gets challenging is if this entity becomes a new school site in the district, if they start establishing different ADA percentages, if they start tracking attendance of the virtual school separate from attendance in a physical building, if the principal doesn't have any if the principal of the building doesn't have any oversight of that student because there's a different principal who's managing the educational outcomes of a student in an online school, that's where it's a virtual school. So if your district deems it to be a program, they're not shifting enrollment away from the student building, and yet students can participate in that, that would be fine. And that would be a scenario where students can receive school meals. They would be claimed in the brick and mortar site where they are enrolled. Hopefully that clarifies.
Thank you, Heather. In the state agency office here, we've talked a lot about this. And so if you need additional clarification with your specific example, please let us know and we can talk you through that. So the next question is, do the students need to pick up their meals from the building they are assigned to? For instance, a sibling, one at middle school and another at elementary. So Linda, would you like to take that?
Sure. You just have to have a plan to count meals only to enrolled students. If you have a way to serve out of a single location and keep the integrity of the program and have a plan only to serve enrolled children, you can certainly serve out of a central location. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. So we have gotten to the end of our questions here. So I want to toss it out to, well, let me see, we just got one more. Our secondary schools are open to students to come for additional learning on Mondays. 2 hours will be with a teacher if needed. We are considering this a school day. Is that correct? So Heather, would you like to take that? Or Linda?
I will take that one.
Okay.
A school day is open to, not open, it is required all students attend. That is the current definition of school day. So if you're a 4-day week, and you have what I would call tutoring club on Friday for 2 hours. In previous years, that was not allowed. If not the entire school, if the entire school was not required to come on that day, it is not a school day. I hope that helps.
I want to jump in and just ask a question for the person who was asking to consider, are other students receiving distance education on that day? So if the district considers it an instructional day, everyone's receiving distance learning, and they are opening school buildings for a subset of students to come in for appointments with teachers to augment their distance learning, then in that case, I think that would meet the definition, as Linda was mentioning, of all students being required to attend, even though they're not physically present in the building. It really comes down to, can that be an operational day for school meals? If it's a day where students are receiving instruction, then yes.
And the person who just asked this question did clarify that yes, all the students are required to do at least the 2 hours online. So thank you for that clarification. I think that goes right along with both what Heather and Linda said. Okay, next question, but still need to follow the meal pattern difference between elementary, middle school, and high school, even if we were offering meals from one location. So Linda, would you like to take that? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Linda.
Yes, you are required to do the meal pattern, but there is the K through 8 flexibility. So you could have K through 8 and high school. However, I believe there is a waiver for meal pattern flexibility that allows an overlap of calories. Heather?
Yeah, thanks, Linda. We were actually just looking into this question earlier this week, and other state agencies have set the precedent with the existing USDA nationwide waiver for meal patterns. We actually have the authority to approve a K through 12 menu, which would allow those lower age grade groups to exceed their upper calorie limits in order to serve in the same portions that you would serve an older age grade group. So be sure to spell that out as you're requesting to use the existing nationwide waiver for meal pattern flexibility when you fill out the opt-in form. And we can approve that. We just need to review your plan and make sure that it is clearly defined.
Perfect, thank you, both Heather and Linda. So next question, if you serve out of a central location, do you claim the students at their buildings? And Jessica, will you want to take that one?
Yeah, yes. So students must be claimed by their eligibility, so free, paid, or reduced, and they must be claimed by their individual school site.
Perfect. Okay, since it looks like we're at the end of our questions, I just want to toss it out to the state agency team. If there's anything that you have thought of during this webinar that you maybe want to add. Okay,
well, this is
so
Heather. I might have missed this. We got a question that said, if we have a few families who are at work and can't pick up meals in buses, only go to certain spots, can we personally deliver to the homes? Did we answer that question? I am sorry if I missed that.
I agree.
It sounds like we.
I don't think that was that one. I think that one was skipped.
Okay, so which question was it again?
Yeah, so the question reads, if we have a few families who are at work and can't pick up meals and the buses only go to certain spots, can we personally deliver to the homes?
Oh, okay, I do see it here, and I apologize, I did miss that one. Does anyone have any input on that, or is that something that we need to take to our regional office to get clarification on? Okay, it sounds like we might need to talk with our regional office and get some input on that. So we can't see the person who asked, and so we will make sure and get that information back to you. If others are interested in that too, we can certainly send that out through our Q&A that we do on all of these webinars. In fact, we will do that, and then we'll have all of the Q&A out on the reopening website that is under the Department of Education.
And Colleen, just to clarify, this is TJ, and I just wanted to, in reading that question, I also want to have the asker consider, are those students actually at home for online learning? Are they not participating in any kind of meal service throughout the course of the week? So are we just talking about this as an online only scenario? Because that will guide the type of answer that we provide.
Yeah, that's really good input. We do need to remember that what we did at the end of last school year will be very different anyway at this point from what we have for the opening. So that clarification is wonderful, TJ. Thank you for doing that. We did get another question. Does the meal pattern flexibility allow for fruit and veggie portion sizes to be provided in minimum amounts, and in parentheses, high school to receive a half cup portion? So who would like to take that? Heather, how about you take that?
Sure.
Or wait.
Yeah. So the meal pattern flexibility that we currently have, it allows for sponsors to request individual flexibilities or exemptions to certain items of the meal pattern, and those are taken on a case-by-case basis by the state agency and approved if they are in a targeted fashion. So it's not a blanket waiver for an entire meal component for the entire year. There has to be a justification for that, like actual shortage or staff time and effort, limited packaging supplies, things like that. And so we will be reviewing those requests that come in via the opt-in form, the waiver opt-in form, and asking for clarification if we need it, and reviewing those and approving them individually.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Heather. So we again are at the end, so we'll give just a few minutes here, but if we don't get another question, we will go ahead and consider the webinar done. We do want to do the reminder again on when the next webinar is, which is August 20th, and then the next one after that is September 3rd at the same time. Go out to the reopening website under the Idaho State Department of Ed, and you will see all of our child nutrition information. You go to the tab that shows a very colorful heart with lots of fruits and vegetables. If you click that picture, you will open up into the child nutrition area. And then also, if you would like to re-listen to this webinar, it will be out in the Idaho State Department of Ed YouTube. So as a team, we want to thank everyone for your hard work. We know that the reopening of schools has been challenging, has brought a lot of unique things this year. So thank you. Please remember, we are only a phone call or an email away. So the webinar will now end, and thank you everyone for joining us.